Stop talking. Okay, so we're on. Everybody, welcome back to Gold Derby for the post-show of the 2020 Golden Globe Awards. It was such a fun night. There were lots of really cool surprises, which we will talk about in detail as usual, because really, quite frankly, there is no better place than Gold Derby to talk about this stuff. I'm back with Riley Chow, my co-host in Vancouver. Tom O'Brien, are you in Palm Springs today?
I am indeed.
You are, so welcome to the post-show. And Joyce Eng, you're in New York, yeah?
Yes.
Welcome to the post-show. So great to see you here. You know what? We've got to talk about the number one shocker for me, and that is 1917 gets the two very big prizes tonight. And frankly, it's probably now emerging as maybe a front runner in this Oscar race, and that's very exciting. That is something that the Golden Globes might have actually done in this awards race, which is cool. Joyce, what do you think? Like, what was your reaction to those two big wins?
I was pleasantly surprised because I had Joker winning picture, which I did not want it to win. And I loved 1917. I think Sam Mendes' win was more shocking to me because I thought Bong Joon-ho was going to win that. But I think this obviously bodes well for the film since, as he mentioned, it hasn't even opened wide yet. And I feel like a lot of the buzz for the film, or some of the buzz for the film, has kind of died down since that opening, or not opening, but the first weekend when it screened back in November. And, it opened limited in the States last week, or no, 2 weeks ago, I guess, now Christmas. And it's doing well, limited, but I think this will definitely put more attention on it. But I do think that had Parasite been eligible in this category, it would have won. And I think if Parasite goes on to win the Oscar, the Globes really need to look at their rules and amend it and allow foreign language films to be eligible in the top two prizes.
Okay. Tom,
why
what do you think?
It would have won if it lost director?
Yeah,
but with the Globes, it doesn't, they've done that before. It's not, even at the Oscars now, it's not completely hand in hand, like directing and picture. But I think that was something that, you could hear the love in the room. Obviously it was just the actors in there, but I think, 1917 is very much of a directing and a DP achievement. So I feel like the directing win for Mendes made sense. And I could see him winning that at the Oscars without 1917 winning Best Picture. So I don't think Bong Joon-ho losing director was a huge blow, even if he doesn't go on to win directing at the Oscars, and Parasite wins Best Picture, which I don't have Parasite winning Best Picture right now. I still have Once Upon a Time winning both directing and picture. So I think I'm going to keep that at the moment.
What I thought was so interesting was that when we were talking about what the favorites were in this category, if it wasn't going to be Joker, it was going to be The Irishman or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Marriage Story. And the two popes, nobody really talked about, and nobody really talked about 1917 that much. No. And that's what that was the big surprise to me. When I could see director because it is entirely a directorial achievement, but picture, that was something I really didn't expect, and they threw us a real curveball here. If the Oscars had been on a normal calendar, I think this would have had a big effect. But since voting is going to be, ending in a day or two, and many of the votes are already in, I'm not quite sure what the effect is going to be. But I think those two wins were the big surprises for me for the night.
Yeah, and speaking of surprises, if you run down the list, there's a lot of them actually, and I have a theory that this might be slightly controversial, but I have a theory that I think some of the Hollywood Foreign Press, because there's only 80 odd, 90 of them, whatever there are, they probably do note what we are saying or what people on Gold Derby and other sites like Gold Derby are saying, and I think sometimes they are trying to prove us wrong, and that's my personal theory, because when you look at like there's so many really interesting choices that no one was seeing coming, like Sam Mendes and Missing Link and Rami Youssef. And even like a lot of people this morning was earlier today, this morning for me, were saying the morning show was going to kill it tonight, which didn't happen. Olivia Colman beat Jennifer Aniston. Unbelievable was skunked. You know, like Patricia Arquette won. There's a lot of surprises that happen tonight, which is wonderful. I love surprises, but it's hard to really pinpoint how there's a consensus over something when it's just a whole bunch of, a handful of journalists who are awarding these prizes. And so what's going to be our big takeout from tonight other than 1917? Do you think anything else kind of stands out as a really big, like, yeah, that might be a moment this award season that we're going to see happen at the end on Oscar night?
I think the supporting categories are pretty done.
Yeah.
Right.
If Jennifer Lopez was going to win anywhere, she would have won it.
Yeah. Like Laura Dern could have afforded to lose this and still win the Oscar. And they just gave her another one.
Yeah, it's really sad. It's a Lady Gaga now. It's like a similar trajectory from what happened to her last year, I think. It's just really unfortunate.
It's interesting. The Irishman was skunked.
Completely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I had a feeling it would happen, but I'm sad that it did. So yes, that happened as well. And it could have won something tonight, and yet it walks away empty.
I had the only thing I had it winning for the longest time was just Drama Picture, and I felt like it could be just one of those like 12 Years a Slave or Moonlight that just wins Picture as its only win. But yeah, like I said, I switched to Joker mostly because of that directing nomination. And yeah, but then I like told myself, I feel like Irishman can also be one of those movies that goes home empty-handed, like Carol, you know, and it did.
Yeah, go ahead.
And when Joker won score, I thought, okay, that's Best Picture, and nope.
Yeah, but yeah, the night we were just talking about TV for a sec, because the night started off with a real shocker when Rami Youssef won. Normally, performers win from shows that, as we know, are nominated in the series categories, and that didn't happen. Rami Youssef is so wonderful in that show. I was really, really quite happy to see it happen. But when he said, "I know none of you have seen this show," it made me laugh out loud because it's probably true. And yet here he is with a Golden Globe. Great publicity for a little show on Hulu, but that's the kind of thing I like to see. I also was very happy about Succession winning 2 big prizes when a lot of people started to kind of jump ship from that over the last couple of days. So that was cool because I think
they should have played L to the OG once. That's all.
They really should have. And
That's
the fact that they didn't is very upsetting.
Yeah.
We'll talk about other upsetting parts of the show as well, because I'm sure we have a lot of stuff that we can grumble about. I'm just trying to if we stay on the positives, I'll tell you what, Ricky Gervais wasn't that great, but that joke he made at the beginning of the night about Judi Dench, I've never laughed that hard at an award show in years. I just thought that was so awful and yet so funny. Thank you, Ricky. I needed that belly laugh very much so. And also, I know, because I think she would have loved it more than anyone else. Not that I know her personally. And also, just as we were talking offline, I felt really good about all the shout outs to the bushfire disaster in Australia, because a lot of us here down under kind of feel like we're a bit forgotten and no one really gives a shit. And it was really nice to hear, at least here, that there's some awareness about the magnitude of what we are dealing with down here, and what you will all be dealing with probably when it's summer in the Northern Hemisphere. It's like a portent for things to come. Like, this is real. This climate change stuff is actually happening. Of course, it's not just climate change. There's other issues that were discussed tonight as well. But it's cool that we get a bit of awareness and a bit of I love all that political stuff, to be honest. I like it when Patricia Arquette has a crack and says things about what's going on in the world. Do you guys agree? Do you want to hear more of that or less?
I think certain people do it better than others. Like Patty does it well. Michelle Williams, once again, does it well. And Leo would have said something had he won. I'm not going to call anyone out, but there have been some speeches, at the Globes in the past where, people have just kind of gone off the rails and should have stopped when they were trying to make a point about something. And so I think it just depends on who does it.
Yeah.
I was.
Because some
I
people are
did
just
not
more
think-
eloquent than others.
I did not find this to be a great night for material in terms of the host or any of the speeches, really.
I actually completely forgot about Ricky Gervais until he came back out like at the last segment. I was like, oh right, he's hosting.
Yeah.
I got the feeling that the room wasn't with him.
No.
He wasn't. There was a lot of frowning faces. Like Keith Urban he looked like he was about to get up and start a punch on, like in typical Aussie fashion. But yeah, I found with Ricky Gervais the shtick about it being too long and we don't really want to be here. Like, no, that's crap. Like, why don't we just be really funny? Try being funny. That would be great. And you were funny a little bit, and then it just kind of petered off, and you weren't funny at all. And that's a shame.
And then he just disappeared. Like he didn't know
Yeah.
like other bits at all. Like he doesn't really do like that recorded stuff. But he just disappeared in the second half, and I don't know, it was just because it was like cut for time, but it just seemed like he only wrote stuff for the monologue and that was it.
Yeah. The other thing that if we're grumbling, the other thing I couldn't stand was the bad sound problem that we had to live with for about an hour, where you couldn't hear them announce the bloody nominees. And sure, I was thinking, surely somebody has told the producer and director there's a problem, fix the sound, but no one said anything for an hour. Like, how ridiculous! What are we doing? Wake up! Seriously. But anyway, I get really cranky about stuff like that. Anything else made you cranky in particular, Riley? Anything? Anything?
Yeah, Rob, you said that you love surprises, whereas I hope I never, see so many surprises in one night again. That was not great.
Why?
For my prediction score.
Did it F up your score?
It did indeed. Yeah.
But
it F'd up all of our scores.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there were a lot of upsets. I called one, so there's that, I guess.
Good. That's a good feeling when you can do that, when you can call an upset. I never really seem to care much about the scores and like what I predicted and what you predicted, and I just don't care about that. I just want to be entertained. I love when they open the envelope and they say something that I'm not expecting. Like that brings me back to my childhood. Like, don't you enjoy that stuff?
Yeah. I mean, I liked the surprises. I don't. Like my score was messed up, but I didn't really have issues with any of the surprise winners. Like I hate when it's a surprise, and I personally hate that performance or that movie or show or something. But I didn't really have any issues with any of the surprise wins. I think I am disappointed in that none of the 4 acting frontrunners lost. I mean, not that I wanted any of them to win, but I wish there was a surprise. Or to lose, rather. But I wish there was a surprise in one of those categories, because I feel like we all have known for such a long time that those were the 4 front runners to win. And I feel like now they could just pull another Frances McDormand and Gary Oldman and Sam Rockwell and Allison Janney and win all of the televised precursors.
It's so boring.
Just be a march to Oscar night.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't
like that's why I wanted Jennifer Lopez, and this was her best chance to win an award. So
yeah,
there's a lot of suspense everywhere else above the line, though, so that's cool.
Yes.
Because of the Oscar schedule, I'm not sure speeches have anything to do with it. But I thought Brad Pitt was just so relaxed, and he's so content within himself, but not cocky.
And he looks like $1 million.
The HFPA for not taking the bait and giving Brad and Jen wins. Should I? Because in the past 48 hours, all the tabloid previews of their Golden Globes reunion was out of control.
Yeah, absolutely.
I find that on the television side, they're much harder to predict, because in the past, the Globes have had kind of a yen to give the next big thing its first award. And they didn't do it that much tonight. The Emmys got ahead of them on Fleabag.
Yeah, that was the case. I was shocked by Andrew Scott losing, but I love that Stalin won. I'm very sad that Jared Harris is not going to win a televised award for Chernobyl. But he was the Chernobyl acting win for the night. So yeah, it was on the TV side this time, it was a lot of playing catch up, because Succession is the big show now and it's in the second season. Rami was the only first season winner. And I would have predicted, I had him in second. I would have predicted him if the show had gotten in, but he was a lone nominee. So he's the first lone nominee to win that category since Don Cheadle.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I was disappointed in Andrew Scott not winning either, but those supporting actor categories are such a hodgepodge with the Globes.
Yeah, it's a good word for it.
You know, that you get Chernobyl against Fleabag, against Kaminsky Method, against Barry.
It's crazy.
Like, what? All right.
Yeah, a comedy person hasn't won in supporting actor since Chris Colfer.
Yeah, that's insane. But you know, I was very happy about Russell Crowe winning, and so that's really cool because I think Showtime had to win something, and so it did. And Chernobyl did as well as many of us thought. Unfortunately, that was probably at the expense of Unbelievable. I was really expecting to hear Toni Collette being called out, and that didn't happen. But what then disappointed me was when they called out Olivia Colman's name, which made me very happy. I was expecting the greatest, funniest speech, and unfortunately, she was probably a little too drunk to deliver this time. And she was sweet and funny, but I just felt like it was a bit of a missed opportunity. So, but
I mean, listen, it's not an Oscar, so she already has two of these.
Right. That's right. Yeah, she called out for Fleabag, and she had one for the Netflix's The Crown. It was a bit strange, but that was a very tough category to choose from, I think. And again, she just seems to keep winning these things, which is pretty cool. So let's now just talk about Joaquin Phoenix for a bit, because I think if you want to talk about the Oscar trajectory, this is, to me, I think now this is it. He is going to win everything. There may be some other winners in the other categories. I don't think Renee Zellweger is as much of a lock as he is in his respective category. And I was really impressed with his speech, even though he's so awkward and weird and strange, and he is probably a huge pain in the ass. I was really, really happy to see him win because I was so blown away by his performance and by that film. And so, do you guys share the same views? What are your thoughts on that, Tom? I
really am not a fan of Joker, but I can't deny that it's a really one of a kind performance. It's interesting in the makeup bake-off over the weekend they had and presenting all of this. The Joker presentation was all about what a pain in the ass Joaquin Phoenix was, and that he would. It's a very brave narrative to take. Yeah, it really is. Yeah. And it was. I think his particular speech was kind of a mea culpa. You know, thank you all for putting up with me being such a pain in the ass. And, combined with the Renee Zellweger narrative, we've got two strong narratives going into this that maybe Adam Driver doesn't have. And I have the feeling this is going to be like Rami Malek last year. And it starts here and it'll just keep rolling for Joaquin Phoenix. I'm going to take this offline with you another day, but I'd love to hear more about why you didn't like Joker and that stuff, because I hear so much negativity about the movie, but I haven't been able to pinpoint what it is about. But we'll do that another time. Joyce, what about you? What are your thoughts on Joaquin Phoenix?
Yeah, I think he's just going to steamroll. I think people, regardless of how you feel about Joker, I think they all love him in it, and they feel like it's his time. And I don't think his speech was rambly, but he's not a great speaker anyway, so I kind of expect that. But it was also kind of weirdly charming, and I actually thought Renee's speech was kind of weirder, and then she just kept talking when they were playing her off. I think he's more of a lock than Renee is. They both have different narratives. So remember, last year, the narrative didn't work for Glenn. I think what helps Renee is I don't think there is as much passion for, as far as we can tell right now, for the other performances in her category as there was for Olivia last year in The Favorite, where I just felt like people, maybe they thought oh, Glenn is going to win, but I'm going to vote for my favorite, no pun intended anyway, which is Olivia. So I don't know if that's really the case this year. I mean, it just, it depends on your competition every year. So, I don't see either of them really losing. right now. So even though Judy is a far more muted film than even the wife was, but maybe it could get that makeup nomination since it's now 5 nominees.
Yeah, and the same probably goes for supporting now. It's such a yawn.
Yeah.
I really wish Laura Dern was winning for Little Women than Marriage Story, even though I loved her in Marriage Story.
Yeah, I love her in both. She's great in both.
I think Little Women will help her Marriage Story.
Yeah.
And,
this is just a career win. So
yeah, she deserves it.
I kind of was a little disappointed in Renee's speech because it became a litany of names. And granted, I'm sure she has a lot of people to thank for her return. But I wish she got a little more personal about what it really meant to her.
Yeah, it just kind of went off at the end, and then the music, it was just not good.
Riley?
Yeah, that speech made me uncomfortable, but I agree with most of what Joyce said. I think that Renee Zellweger is maybe just a little bit more vulnerable than she said, but
yeah, go ahead.
But if not her, who?
Exactly. Like, I think this was like a chance for the Globes to, because they're first, so they can like really drive like the narrative or like the course of the rest of the season, especially since it's shorter now. So I guess it's just like they didn't really care for the other nominees or the other performances either. So I don't know. I
was hoping Saoirse Ronan, maybe there was a slight chance that she might have had some steam built up for her, but obviously that ended with the actor awards that we talked about earlier today. The other thing I wanted to talk about with you, I hope so, because I think she's so fucking amazing in Little Women, I must say. So Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is, to me, a divisive film because a lot of people love it and some people don't. And some people are just in the middle and think it's okay. And I'm one of those. I think it's okay. And I'm just really disappointed, to be completely honest, that it took home 3 and is likely to be a big contender in this Oscar season. I think it's a good film. It's not a great film. Where do you guys fall? Are you in the love or hate or in the middle camp, Joyce?
I loved Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I've had it winning this whole time, mostly because it was the first one out of the gate. But now I feel like I don't really need to remove it yet because it's hit everything it's needed to hit, like precursor wise. Hasn't had any big misses. And I feel like people in the industry love it, even if it might be mixed to the general public. So I think like this was like what I expected. This is what the 3 wins was what I had it winning because I didn't think they were going to give it to Leo again since he's won on his last 2. So he was just like really low priority for them. And Taron just campaigned his ass off. So I think like it will probably, it hasn't, Riley will know this better. I don't think it's missed a guild yet. Right?
Not that I know.
Yeah. I think it's hit all the guilds because it got cinematography last week. So, and Parasite missed that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Tom, are you in the love or hate or in the middle?
I'm in the middle. I'm probably closer to you, Rob, on that. I really in the screenplay category, I really was hoping for if it wasn't going to be Bong, which to me is the most original.
Yeah, that's what I was waiting for. Yeah.
It would be Noah Baumbach because really that film is all in the writing. Whereas it's not really the case for Hollywood. I mean, it's the directing and the whole ambiance of that is probably contributing as much, if not more, to whatever you feel about the film. But Marriage Story is writer dependent, and certainly Parasite is a remarkable screenplay.
And personally, if I was a voter, I would have probably voted for The Two Popes in screenplay because I was just so impressed with the words that they were actually saying. And anyway, but it is what it is, right? Another question before we let you guys go, and we'll bring in our new people, is Parasite in trouble? It missed the ASC, and a lot of people weren't predicting it. I kind of slightly was. I thought it had a chance, and it didn't do that well tonight. It won foreign film, but it would have won that no matter what. It didn't win anything else. Is it in trouble? I think it slightly is, and it's worrying me. What do you guys think?
I don't think it is. I really do think it would have won drama if it were eligible here. I think, you know, like the Globes aren't the industry, but I think people in the industry, they love this movie as well. And I feel like Bong Joon-ho is like the hottest man in town right now. Like I think everyone wants to meet him and talk to him. Like it made SAG Ensemble, which is no one predicted. So
thank God.
I think it's fine.
Yeah, I think the cinematography to me was sort of on the bubble in terms of an Oscar.
Yeah.
I mean, it's much stronger in other categories. Production design, I would say.
Oh, I mean, I hope so.
Yeah, that house, God.
Incredible.
And editing, I think it could score. Possibly, they're really doing a whole supporting actor.
It should.
Kang Ho.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
Which was and then you add director and picture and foreign and international film.
Of course.
And you've got 6 or 7. So if it doesn't get cinematography, I don't think it's the end of the world.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any final thoughts before? Well, actually, Charles and Tony, you should probably get ready to come and join us. But if you guys have any final thoughts before we say goodbye to you, now's the time before we eject you from this hallowed area.
I want some surprises going forward. I don't want the same winners, especially in the acting races, even if they ultimately end up winning the Oscar.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping for some, nutty Golden Globe stuff. And when the usual suspects won, I'm just kind of, oh boy, here we go again. It's another year. I was disappointed in that sense. But I'm really hoping, like Joyce, that we have some shakaroos on nomination day. And here's hoping.
Fingers crossed. Tom and Joyce, thanks so much for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you soon on our next awards day night. Bye.
Good to see you guys.
Bye.
Now, joining us is Charles Bright and Tony Ruiz, who were with us in the pre-show, and you're back, and hopefully not too drunk, and all drunk as much as you want. It's really up to you.
It's over. I was working, damn it.
I've had a few glasses of Prosecco. I'm feeling pretty good, and I think we have plenty to talk about. We're going to rehash some stuff we've already talked about. That's okay. First question, Tony, why do you think Ricky Gervais did such a good job? Because I wasn't quite sure whether he completely stuck the landing this time.
You know, it was interesting. I thought of you as soon as he started talking, because you had said during the pre-show that you wanted him to just go for it. And you know what I loved about it? Oh, look, there's me commenting on myself.
With your dog.
How meta.
It's so meta.
I am probably going to be in the minority. I just finished my review, which is why I'm drinking now. I loved it. I thought it was exactly what I think he went there with a purpose. And I think his purpose was, these award shows are all self-congratulatory, slapping each other on the back. Here's this nominee, here's this nominee. I think he wanted to bring it back down to earth. And it was biting. It was uncomfortable. I was here for all of it. I absolutely adored it. I thought the joke about Leonardo DiCaprio thinking his date was too old by the end of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was hilarious. I thought the Jeffrey Epstein stuff was perfect.
Good. And the Minge joke about Judi Dench, I was screaming.
Well, see, that was bleeped.
It was? Oh,
it was bleeped here. I didn't know. I didn't know if that was. I didn't know what he said because it was bleeped here.
Oh no. Okay, that's a shame. All the F words and all the rude words don't get bleeped outside the US. I don't know about Canada, but it doesn't get bleeped here, and it just made it so much funny. Like Joaquin Phoenix said fuck about 3 or 4 times during his speech. It's just wonderful. That's what I want to say.
The most
authenticity
acceptance speech of all time.
That's great.
And the reason why I liked it so much is that Gervais, I think, did not toe the line at all. He said it in one of his first lines. He said, "I just don't care," and he said, "They're just jokes, and we're going to have them at your expense." And he went for it time after time after time. Not all of them were perfect. I thought the Martin Scorsese height joke was a little tired and a little old, but so much of it was just so perfect. My complaint really is that in the beginning, it seemed like he was going to be on more, because at every commercial break when he came back, I thought the joke about, we're going to show a clip from The Irishman, it's 88 minutes long. I thought that was a great joke. But as is usually the problem with the Golden Globes, he goes away after a while, and the host doesn't come back, and the host is almost an afterthought. The Globes have got to figure out a way that if they're going to have a host, the host needs to be a consistent presence. I don't put that on Gervais. I put that on the producers and the pacing and all of that. But I was here for all of it. I thought it was a very nice balance. Riley, you're killing me with these. I thought it was a nice balance to what were, I thought, some really emotional speeches, some very somber speeches, some very genuine speeches. And I think it cut the self-congratulatory nature out of it and brought everybody back down to earth. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic.
So, Charlie, what did you agree?
What else can I say?
Nothing.
If you can't think of anything to say, I'm just going to quote Ricky Gervais and fuck off.
Well, I was thinking, I mean, you said it all perfectly, and your rant was about as long as that clip from The Irishman. So,
such a nasty one.
That. I know, you were such a nasty
You
woman.
are so nasty.
I thought he did pretty good. I was laughing throughout. I thought his zingers were pretty good. I mean, not all of them landed, but it's useless bringing up how many frowning people there are in the room. That's been a staple since the first year he hosted the Golden Globe.
True.
So, I mean, if they're not frowning, he's not doing it right.
Yeah. All right. So how about Riley? First of all, what did you think of Ricky Gervais? I don't think I've asked you yet.
Well, I liked Ricky Gervais when we saw him, but my problem was just that we so rarely saw him. And I had some connection issues at the start, so I pretty much never saw him.
Oh, that's a shame. Well, here's another question, right? This is a tough one. Think about this carefully. What was the best speech of the night? Because for me, it was definitely Michelle Williams. I just thought that she did a similar thing at the Emmys, and I love that female empowerment stuff. I'm here for that. And she's so eloquent, and it was all memorized, and she just gave it to everybody. And I just thought it was wonderful. What do you guys think of the best speech of the night? Anybody?
There's a couple for me. I actually thought, like, in terms of what it seemed like the overall tone of the evening was, I actually thought one of the best speeches was given by somebody who wasn't even there, and that's Russell Crowe. I thought that was so powerful, and just kind of, for it to be like the second award was really just a punch in the gut that set the tone for something that was on everybody's minds and should have been. In terms of old-fashioned speeches, I thought Taron Egerton's speech was so great because he seemed genuinely happy, shocked, and enjoyed it. You just saw this feeling of happiness radiating off of his face. I really loved that speech, mainly because he's not one of those, like, oh, I've been around so long and I'm so jaded and stuff like that. And you could see him really enjoying it. And I think that's refreshing. We don't always get that. I thought Pitt gave a good speech. I thought he aced his Oscar audition. Laura Dern dropped in some humor into her speech, which I thought was really good. I thought kudos to whoever put together Tom Hanks's clip package. I thought that was so well done. I mean, you start with the Love Boat, and you see the scope of his career. I thought that was great. There were a lot of really just great moments in this show. I really enjoyed it.
Charlie?
I think Rami Youssef set the bar so high with that.
Oh, good one.
That was so, because I was watching it, and the shock was still wearing off, and he is just killing it with every line. It was brilliant. And what I love about it is that it's like, to me, it was like saying, I deserve to be up here. I am the best at comedy right now. And at that moment, he was. I have to acknowledge Michelle Williams' amazing speech. She just blew me away with how beautifully structured that speech was, whether it was extemporaneous or memorized. I mean, either way, it was amazing. Having been raised by a nurse who's a regular contributor to Planned Parenthood, it's definitely something that has been instilled in me about choice, and so I thought that was a magnificent speech that she gave. I thought Brad Pitt was great too. It's amazing that he's sober, because he really, I guess that's just his natural state. He really seemed like he might have, smoked a little Chiba Chiba beforehand, but he doesn't do that anymore. So, and I also like that he thanked his family back in Springfield, Missouri. My sister actually lives out there, so hi Nancy, and his family's still all out there, so that's pretty cool.
Riley?
Yeah, Brad Pitt gave the people, what they wanted. He wasn't going to make anything political. He was just going to be cool, like he is in the movie, which he won for.
He's so cool.
I was happy to see Bong Joon-ho up there once. He had a good 3 sentences.
Yeah, he did. He certainly did. Yeah, I loved a lot of the speech. I thought Taron Egerton did a great job of cementing his place in the Oscar race, and hopefully he does get that nomination that he so deserves. If it wasn't for Awkwafina did a great job as well, cementing her place in the conversation. If Joaquin Phoenix wasn't such a beast in terms of his, he's just going to eat everyone alive and get every award under the sun, I expect. I would think that Taron Egerton would be someone who would probably pick up a few awards, kind of like, if Rami Malek can do it for Bohemian Rhapsody, then why not Taron Egerton for also a role about a musical icon in a dramatic musical film, and yet it's just not really getting the same heat as Bohemian Rhapsody was getting last year, unfortunately. So there was a lot of stuff about tonight where we were thinking about how it was going to affect the Oscar race, which is always the way. But in terms of the show itself, if we just focus on that, was there any other moment that took you by surprise, or that you really loved, or that you really hated, or something that that comes to mind straight away? Anybody, just throw it out at me before we finish up for the day.
I loved Hilda Guðmundsdóttir. Is that how you pronounce it? I loved her win for
your
score.
guess is as good as ours.
Yeah, Guðmundsdóttir. Yeah, what a great score.
At least
Wow.
York has the decency to just keep it the first name.
That's right.
But I love that score for Joker, so I'm very,
Me too.
very happy about that win. I want also great speech this evening was Brian Cox, man. And I said in the pre-show, if Brian Cox wins, everything else is just gravy. And being the fan of gravy that I am, and the official spokesperson for gravy, I can tell you,
I love you.
Like he said it, he's been in this business for 60 years. Plus, he looks awesome with those purple shades.
He really did. Really did. I thought about you when Brian Cox won. I was like, yes. I was high fiving you from across the planet.
Oh, but no, it was great. And I just thought he was so charming. And Rob, you and I have interviewed him. You know that he's a very humble person.
He's so nice.
I mean, he can go on for a bit, but but at his core, he is very, very humble and is so appreciative of his castmates and the crew on that show. And I love that Succession won Best Drama. That was a very welcome thing. And I love the Phoebe Waller-Bridge shout out to Obama. That was
Oh, mate, that would have really pissed off a lot of conservatives who might have been watching. It was already a lefty kind of communist, greeny nightmare for a lot of right-wing people. But then when she called out Obama, oh God,
you could hear the groans from Fox News viewers, probably from Australia.
So
yeah, I have not played on speed dial, so it's like that's how we roll. But I also and I just lost it, so forget it.
Well, while you're thinking, also
Stellan Skarsgård had one of the best speeches.
The eyebrows, yes.
The eyebrow thing, and I had him at number 2. I should have put him at number 1 because I was like, what, he's someone who that international crowd is going to really go for.
Yeah, finally he gets his due. I loved
his Milos Forman impression too.
Yeah, And now I've completely lost what I was going to say. So someone else pipe up.
I was very happy that there were certain categories where like a lot of the experts were going in one direction and I just wasn't going along with it. I didn't necessarily get them right. Like I never got on the Joker train for Best Picture, so I was happy about that. I love that Olivia Colman won.
Me too.
I'm so happy about that. And I think she should drink during every award show and just have nothing to say, and I'm totally all about that.
Are you ready for it? Yeah.
Yeah. Who needs to be ready? Just be Olivia Colman. You'll be fine.
Okay, so what about another surprise, Missing Link? So there was all these sequels and then Missing Link. Is that the main reason why it won? And those two people who won it, well, they were the most shocked people in the whole room.
Well, yeah, I don't think it had, I'm not sure how much it had to do with sequels, since How to Train Your Dragon 2 won this category several years ago. I think, Laika just puts in a lot of effort, and it's really, because it's stop motion, it's a film where all the effort, all you just have to do is think about every move that the animators had to make in order to get that collection of images on the screen. And it's really mind blowing. And so it's not and Laika was probably, offering seminars to anyone who would listen about the difficulty of that process. So I think that, that probably worked well. And that can only help Missing Link, which is, I don't know if it's still in our top 5 in our prediction center, but it feels like it's kind of fallen. And the fact that it didn't do well at the box office, it really just did not do well at the American box office. I don't think it cracked 30 million. This was a really nice way of acknowledging the work that goes into any Laika film.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Riley.
I think it's not just, there being sequels, but them not living up to their predecessors, where Toy Story 4 and Frozen 2 and How to Train Your Dragon, like there have been past films in those franchises that were much better reviewed. So these ones are not judged necessarily on their own merits, but how they stand up to the other films.
Yeah. There's a question in the comments area from James about De Niro. And I think it's a good question. We might finish up on that one because he missed out on the nomination, which was probably portentous, if that's even a word, for Irishman. If he does not get a nomination from BAFTA, is he toast? I mean, let's just assume he gets nominated at the Oscars. And that's even 50-50 at this rate, because that's a very stacked category. Eddie Murphy is sniffing around as well for a nomination, as is Taron Egerton, and there's a whole bunch of other guys. What happened? What do you think about De Niro? Like, I would have thought 2 months ago that De Niro was a lock for everything. And I don't know. At the moment, I don't even think I have him predicted. That's insane.
Well, and there's I mean, the three that I think we all agree are probably the safest, and correct me if I'm wrong, but obviously Phoenix and Driver and Antonio Banderas are probably the safest.
I wouldn't put Antonio Banderas in there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think there's a top two, and then
I still think there's too many variables for that. I really think that Driver and Phoenix are the only safe ones.
God, what a nightmare. Banderas has to be there. My God, I'd be very disappointed if that didn't happen.
Yeah, that's my favorite performance of the year. But so
well, who then? Bale, Price, like what?
I think it comes down. I think what just happened tonight is I think that maybe without even trying, Egerton really moved into that position.
Number 3 or 4. Yeah.
So because you've got say Bale and Jonathan Pryce and DiCaprio,
yeah, Eddie Murphy
and Eddie Murphy and Egerton. But I think Egerton with this win and that speech,
helps
totally just put himself in front of Eddie Murphy. So I don't know what to think, but I think De Niro is really, really vulnerable.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Oh no,
and all I was going to say was, if Murphy had won and Egerton had lost, we would be saying Egerton's toast. So he really needed to win tonight. And although at the end of Oscar voting, perhaps it might help him just kind of squeeze through and get that last 4th or 5th slot.
Well, when's the cutoff of Oscar voting?
Do we have another 3 or 4 days? I might have to look it up, but I know we're still in the midst of it, but it's been going since the 1st. So maybe we have another week. Look, I don't know, but I should probably have looked that up before. But a lot of people might have already voted, but it certainly helps this year. For anyone who won tonight, definitely an audition for a nomination.
What was interesting about that De Niro question is actually before I came into the chat room, I actually adjusted some of my Oscar predictions. I moved Once Upon a Time in Hollywood because I refused to acknowledge the D up to number 1 for Best Picture, and I took out De Niro and Murphy out of my Best Actor lineup and put in Edgerton and DiCaprio. I think that's just, I had always thought that De Niro might miss out on this, even if, say, The Irishman is the nomination leader. It just felt like something that might happen. So even though I did eventually put him in, now I'm taking him out, and it seems like he just might, fall by the wayside.
Well, if De Niro misses out, I think most of us will be saying, well, The Irishman's got a problem. I think it's problematic for The Irishman if De Niro's not there.
I wouldn't say that. I would say as well. I would say if only one of the supporting actors gets in, then I would say The Irishman really has a problem, because Best Actor is so competitive this year. But if as long as both Pesci and Pacino make it in, I would say that I don't think necessarily has. I would say it's still, one to keep your eye on. Although it really took a hit tonight with going over 5. Was it over 5 or?
Yeah, it didn't win anything.
Yeah,
it was 5 nominations, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And another quick question, and then we should probably go. Go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
I'm not sure why De Niro has been missing nominations throughout the season, and I've never had The Irishman winning Best Picture, but I think we all agree that it's up there in the Best Picture race, and I feel like we see this every year with Roma or The Shape of Water or The Revenant or Spotlight, where they miss random nominations throughout the season, but by the time you get to the Oscars, the Oscar voters, they're just trying to prioritize certain movies to watch. And the movies that get seen the most, they just max out in nominations. So I think The Irishman will be viewed by everybody, and that'll help De Niro cross the finish line, even if he's lagging behind throughout the rest of the season.
Well, we shall soon see. In supporting actress, I think Jennifer Lopez is in trouble. She really needed to win tonight to solidify her place in the conversation. And I'm also wondering, do any of you have Margot Robbie for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, or are we all predicting her for Bombshell? Because that one has kind of stumped me a little as well. Are we just all going with Bombshell?
I have to look and see if I even have her in.
Okay.
I have her at number 2 right now for Bombshell, but I definitely that's still because because Bombshell's in this weird position right now, where it didn't do too well at the Globes. It only got the 2 nominations, but then it did really well at SAG.
Yeah.
I don't know what to think about it, because I still think it's a very likely it's still a very distinct possibility that she could cancel herself out and not get nominated at all in supporting actress. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I think it's a very distinct possibility because right now it seems like those films are both on equal footing, and it might be tough to the voters just are going their own way. It might be tough for one to edge out the other.
But putting aside her performance in Bombshell, who in their right mind would vote for her performance in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Well, that's my
I know a lot of people. I've heard a lot of people really enjoyed that performance.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Specifically, the scene of her in the movie theater. That
is pretty cool. non-verbal. It's just very, very cool scene.
So a lot of your friends are foot fetishists? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Well, I mean, Mid-Atlantic Leather is in 2 weeks, so I mean, I'm already on that board with them.
Okay.
I'm in DC.
Yeah, try the beef. James in our comment area also says, quite rightly, I thought about this earlier, if J-Lo does win at the Critics' Choice, which is not as likely as the HFPA because the critics groups across the country, you know, the Midwestern blah, blah, blah Critics Association, a lot of them didn't vote for J-Lo. If she wins at Critics' Choice, because Critics' Choice are slightly whorish as well when it comes to stars, sorry to say, I've got a lot of friends in that group, then the whole thing gets turned on its head again. But to me, it just feels like Laura Dern.
Oh, I think she's going all the way. I think what's interesting is supporting. I think it's going to be a question of who gets in alongside Laura Dern, because I think Laura Dern is taking this all the way.
Right.
I still think that there's a really good chance. Not a really good. Maybe that's over hoping. I think there's still a chance that, say, like Scarlett Johansson gets 2 nominations, one for lead and one for supporting. I still think there's a chance that Zhao Zhuzhen gets in.
I love that.
How wonderful was it seeing her just all glammed up tonight?
She's so cute, so cute.
And you could just recognize her, even though because the way she was sitting, her back was to the camera, but you could just tell it was her because of her hair.
Yeah.
And I actually think Awkwafina's win actually helps Zhao Zhuzhen.
Yeah.
I hope she gets nominated. She's heartbreaking in that movie.
Yeah. I think there's still some surprises to be had. I mean, who among us, I don't think there's a single one of us that was expecting Marina de Tavira to get in for Roma. So I actually think, and I'm going to say this, and I'll probably get yelled at for it later. I think that if there's a shock in supporting actress, I think it could either be Zhao Zhuzhen or it could be the actress from Parasite, the
oh my god, yeah,
the wife from Parasite.
The wife, yeah.
The upscale.
I don't remember her name.
The upscale wife.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the park.
I think that suffers from I really think there are 4 supporting actress performances that are all worthy of getting in there, and I don't think there's a clear one to campaign for, because I've seen a lot of people campaigning for talking about the housekeeper, what's her name, Li Jingyan, I think her name is.
Mm-hmm.
Who I fucking loved her in that movie, because when I first saw her, I thought to myself, she looks like Ri Chun-hee, that North Korean news anchor who's always, and then she does the impression of her, and I was just like too much.
Such a good movie.
Some of us spend way too much time watching.
We really need to get out more. Yeah. Okay. So look, we have already talked about 1917. A few people were asking us to talk about that. We did talk about at the beginning of the show. That was a huge surprise. I don't think a lot of people were seeing those 2 wins coming, and I think it certainly helps that film in its trajectory for Oscar night. I think it was going to do very well anyway. I think,
other than our intrepid leader Tom O'Neill, who was predicting it.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool, of course.
We clap for our cheerleader.
And now we're speaking like North Koreans. Yeah. But anyway, look, I think that's right. I think we're done for Golden Globes 2020. It was a good one, and I'm ready to move on to the next thing. I think Critics' Choice is next week, and then I think we have some BAFTA nominations coming out this week as well.
There's a lot of nominations coming out this week.
Yeah, it's really going to be a complete shit sandwich, and so we just need to be prepared for what's going to hit us. And everybody,
so if you want to participate in this shit sandwich, go to goldderby.com.
That's right, and where the shit sandwich is as tasty as ever, with extra added corn kernels. Okay, so thank you everybody so much.
Globes ever.
Wait, Rob, I have one question.
So yeah.
What's everybody predicting for Best Picture? I'm going with Parasite.
Parasite.
Right now? That's a bloody good question.
Update us.
I haven't changed my predictions yet. I've had Irishman in there for a while. I'm going to change it, and I'm going to put in Parasite, but I'm not convinced yet.
I said it earlier. I have What's About Time in Hollywood.
Okay, we'll see. But there's, who knows, 1917's in the race. Joker might be in the race. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was definitely in the race. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Don't forget, if you want the best awards coverage, you really can't get much better than Gold Derby. Go to your prediction center right now, change all your predictions, and keep them updated, because I'm telling you now, people are looking. They want to see what you guys are predicting, because really, quite frankly, a lot of you know more than most of the experts, and that's because you live and breathe this stuff like we do. Anyway, we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us, and goodbye.